Get ready to crush it. Crush it.
Yeah.
This is the Crush It Podcast with Matt and Mason.
All right, welcome back into the Crush It Podcast. I am your host, Mason Burchett, here with my co-host, Matt Davis. Matt,
what's up?
Get off your phone. We're recording a podcast.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Like right now?
Yeah, we're live. We're not actually live. It's pre-recorded, but we are recording. All right, so we got another Relax Fit episode for you guys.
What is your obsession with that term?
I actually stole it from another podcast.
Maybe you should give it back to him.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and review another video.
Okay.
And I've got one pulled up that I think is going to be pretty interesting.
It should be interesting because, there's a lot of guys that we listen to in our space that, honestly, not everybody's content is for everybody. Believe it or not. Believe it or not, Mason, there may be some people who aren't real big into the Crush It podcast. That might exist.
They're wrong.
I've never met them. Right?
It's just theoretical.
But just, it's possible. But, the reality is there are different people, different podcast, different mentors.
Oh my gosh, get through this.
All right, I got through it. Go ahead.
And they all talk about different topics
Mm-hmm.
and appeal to different audiences, right? Mm-hmm. So it's for that reason.
I'm out. Thank you, Lori. Little Shark Tank reference there. But anyway, so it is cool to kind of, you got to kind of spit the bones.
Okay. Okay.
On some people's stuff. And there are people, and we were talking about this with Paul the other day. We all kind of lean more towards different,
we have different natures.
Yeah, we have different natures. And so different people's methods, what they say, their advice resonates with different people.
There are Dave Ramsey people.
Right.
There are Grant Cardone people.
Yep.
There are Gary Vaynerchuk people.
Yes.
Right? And these guys are all in a somewhat similar space, influencers in the success mindset space, right?
But they do have some glaring differences.
Yes, they do.
That when they're big name, like they are, the world we live in, they always end up going at each other.
Especially their crowds.
Yes.
Like their followers go at it first.
Yes.
And then occasionally you get lucky enough for the influencer.
Strike the right chord.
The influencer will get involved in the conversation.
Yes.
And it makes everything very entertaining.
Yep.
So you're actually the one that first introduced me to Grant back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I will say I give a lot of credit to Grant Cardone, little shameless plug here. His book, The 10X Rule. That was a book that actually my dad suggested to me. He had listened to it on Audible. And the 10X Rule was a book that honestly was responsible for the initial mindset change that I had years ago.
Okay.
And kind of got me pointing in a different trajectory as far as my life goes. And so with that being the case, I kind of bought in really hard on Grant Cardone. Still highly love a lot of his stuff. I will say that as I have grown, I have gravitated a little more away from him towards some other guys that I actually found out about through Grant Cardone going to GrowthCon
yep.
in Vegas. And so, I appreciate what Grant does. But I will say he's not a fit for a lot of people. I love the 10X mindset, the 10X Nation. I love the movement, 10X movement. It really is a movement that he's gotten started. But he really...
You want to go ahead and sell some of his courses?
Nope, sure don't. But he rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And I'll be honest, I love that.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
So I
love that.
I like a lot of his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some stuff that's good.
Yeah.
there's also a lot of his stuff, and I'm like, this is total BS. Everything
Yeah.
he's saying right now is retarded.
Yeah.
This is dumb, and I don't subscribe to any of it.
Right.
And so, in the same note, Dave Ramsey has been one of those guys that was very influential in my initial mindset change, my path to success.
Yeah.
And you have a similar sentiment to Dave.
I do.
As I do for Grant.
There's a lot of stuff that Dave says that I agree with. My overall consensus is the only person who gets truly. I'm not going to. You can get wealthy his way, but if you're going to get rich, if that's your goal, in a way that money brings enormous freedom and have the ability to have huge influence, it's either going to. There's two ways to do it the Dave Ramsey way. Either it's going to take a really long time, or you sell courses on how to do it, which was Dave Ramsey's way of building his wealth.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of stuff that I just don't subscribe to.
Okay.
Have you
ever read a single Dave Ramsey book?
Oh yeah, I have read. I've read The Legacy Journey. And
You've read The Legacy Journey, and you're saying that his methods don't produce wealth?
No, you're putting words in my mouth.
I thought that's what you just said.
Because you weren't listening. I literally said that his methods will produce wealth.
Oh, it just takes a long time.
It just takes and there's much quicker
ways,
better ways, in my opinion, that you can accomplish those things. And the reality is, although there are the first few steps of his plan, I think are fantastic and that everybody should be living their daily lives to, but you have to admit that you rather quickly got to a point where you started veering away from the hardcore following his plan because you saw some ways where you could speed up your process.
That is partly true.
Okay. And that's my point.
And I may refine the way you said some of that, but that is partly
okay.
true.
Yeah. And the reality is, for your middle class everyday person who has gotten themselves in stupid debt, and they want to get out of that debt and just live a comfortable life hanging out in the middle class, which again, there's nothing wrong with. We talk about defining your success.
Okay.
Then Dave Ramsey's your guy.
Yeah.
He's the way to do that. And the way to make sure you're good for your retirement. But in retirement, you're also going to be that middle class person, correct?
No. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I think that's true. I don't think that's exclusive. I think he's also. I'm just giving you my perspective. Because if all you ever do,
this is not even what this episode's about, but here we are.
Yeah. If all you ever do is throw money into a savings account, you're never going to make any money, obviously, unless you hit the lottery. I think he provides.
Which, if you're doing it the Dave Ramsey way, you do not play the lottery.
Exactly.
So let's throw that in there.
Which neither of us did.
We
must be doing it the Dave Ramsey way. I think he provides stability and accountability for a lot of people
which
that
is
don't
great.
have discipline.
Which is great.
And that's how I view him. And I feel like that's his platform.
And that's why I'm not against him.
Okay.
I'm not against him. And I know you're not against Cardone.
Yeah.
But I feel like basically that's why I think videos like what we're about to watch are so cool.
Because we're already arguing about it.
We're already arguing. But what's cool about it is everybody needs to, you don't need to have your one guy. There may be your favorite, and that's fine for you to have your favorite.
Don't be a fangirl.
But don't act like, and maybe, a lot of young preachers need to hear this about their favorite pastor, their favorite evangelist, but stop pretending that everything that comes out of that one man's mouth is the gospel and that's the way it's to be done.
If you're
not, shut up. If you're not mentally stable enough in yourself to be a hybrid of all these people that are teaching good things, and you can't take the good from this person, take what fits from this person,
Preach.
Then you're not mature enough to be successful.
Come on now.
You got to stop. All right, I guess we're going into the video now.
All right, so this video is called Grant Cardone on calling Dave Ramsey stupid for saying all
we
debt
don't
is bad.
use. What's your profanity? We don't use language on this podcast. Yeah. Which, speaking of, there may be language in this, and if so, we will bleep it out. You don't have to run for the hills.
Yeah, potentially.
Well, I was watching one of your videos, and a caller called in, and he said, "Well, Dave Ramsey said that I should only buy my house. I should buy my house and buy it in cash."
Yeah.
And you said,
I shouldn't have said what you're about to say, but go ahead.
Okay.
He's already.
Did you see the smile come on
Yeah.
his face
Yeah.
when he said the name Dave Ramsey?
Yeah, because he
Dave
knows.
Ramsey's stupid.
Dave Ramsey, I mean, look, Dave, you're a good dude, but look, Dave Ramsey is he's like all debt is bad debt. If the TV company and radio house didn't use debt, you wouldn't have a show, pal. Like, don't bite the old horse in the mouth, or whatever that saying is. The gift horse.
That is not the saying.
What did he say?
Don't bite the horse in the mouth.
Don't bite the old horse in the mouth.
You know, old Grampy used to say.
I think it's bite the hand that feeds you. is
I
what he
think,
was going for.
yeah, and I think he was almost attempting like you can lead a horse to water and don't bite the hand that feeds you, and decided not don't bite the horse in the mouth. I don't know.
Don't bite. Let's back that up. Don't bite. Go ahead.
That is bad debt. If the TV company and radio house didn't use debt, you wouldn't have a show, pal. Like, don't bite the old horse in the mouth, or whatever that saying is.
I love it.
The gift horse or whatever.
The gift
If you
horse.
didn't use debt, you wouldn't.
What's a gift horse? Like, where did that come from? All right.
Okay.
Right? The publishing company that publishes your books, if they didn't use debt, you wouldn't have a book. Like, it's not true what he's telling people. What happened to Dave Ramsey was he took on too much debt, it busted him, and he went on to become an educator that debt's bad. Well, yeah, but then he goes on to say you shouldn't borrow money. He wouldn't borrow money to buy a car. He would ride a bike to work. Stupid, man. It doesn't make any sense. You live in New York City, you might need transportation, right? If you live in Kansas City, you're probably going to need a car because you might live Houston, Texas, you're going to be 45 minutes outside the energy corridor. You're going to have to get there with your kids. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So, lastly, I'll say this about Dave. If I was on TV every day, man, you know how rich I would be? Dave's worth about $50 million. Okay, that's what my plane costs.
Is that true?
So there's like this rumor that goes around on the internet that he's worth around $55 million.
Okay.
And he had a caller call in one time and ask him about his net worth. He's like, yeah, so I know you're worth about $55 million. And Dave was like, where'd you hear I'm worth $55 million? I'm not worth $55 million.
Did he say what he is worth?
No. Also, his company's privately held. Mm-hmm. There's no way to know.
Right. That's why I stopped, because I was just curious, because that's not information I would know. Seems like something you would probably.
I do know that new building they built in Nashville, they built with cash.
Obviously.
Which means his net worth has to be pretty large.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what he's worth. It's a significant amount.
Yeah. Gotcha.
He ain't buying a plane. So,
I feel you, man. Like I said, I agree with you. Buying a house and even buying it all with cash, to me, is ridiculous.
hey, if you gave me $700,000.
Okay, so this is one of the parts where I definitely fall off the bandwagon with Grant. Is he's really against buying a home. He's very much against home.
Now, I know you probably stopped that for us to have a little fight there, but I do see. I fall off the wagon here as well.
Okay.
I do think that it's ridiculous to be against buying a home.
Yeah.
That's stupid. The points that, and he may be about to make them here, but the points I've heard Grant make about if it's, his saying is if it's got one door, rent it. If it's got multiple doors, buy it.
Right.
You invest in multifamily, you rent your house. And I do see how he gets there. And in some, I think it really depends on the market you're in, where you live, if that makes sense. But I will say that in most of America, you buy a house.
Yeah.
That there may be a few cities where that does not apply. But I'll agree. This is I do fall off the wagon here.
And this is where the audiences really matter, because Grant's appealing to the 10X
Right.
get millionaire, billionaire mindsets, which is great.
But
it also, like, a lot of his stuff would work great for 24-year-old that has no wife or kids.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And that's where that can be a little bit of a skewed view there. Because I will say that when he first come out saying, it's stupid to buy a house, there is a very large following of realtors
Oh, yeah.
that are like,
He's big in real estate.
yeah. And they love Cardone. And then he come out and they're like, hey, what are you doing? Why would you do this? And so, I think he is in the minority in that belief. For sure.
Yeah. I'm glad. Look at us.
Look at us agreeing.
All right.
Give it a second.
And said, hey, go buy a house with it. I'd be like, do you want to give me the $700? I'll do whatever I want with it.
Right.
Okay?
Because I'm Grant Cardone.
If you
Cocky.
gave me a house worth $700, I'd sell it for $600 the same day, get my $600. And I'm going to take my $600 and I'm going to go buy $2.4 million worth of real estate that pays the debt down in 30 years, and it'll probably be worth $7 or $8 or $9 or $10 million to my kids. I'm not going to even be around 30 years from now. My kids wake up 30 years from now and they got a $10 million piece of property paid for that's paying $3,000 or $4,000 a month or $5,000 a month, no telling what the rent's going to be in 30 years. I don't want one house in some neighborhood that probably dies anyway. The neighborhood dies.
Okay.
Which that is something that I do love. I do agree with. I don't agree that you buy a $700,000 house, sell it for a $100,000 loss just to go buy a multifamily building.
Right.
That was a stupid analogy.
Yeah.
But for long-term investing, multifamily, and the legacy that allows you to leave to your kids, I think is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with the alternative either. I mean, his mentality there to me is super flawed because he's saying, I'm not going to buy a house in a community that's going to go under anyways. I'm going to invest in this multifamily complex and my kids will have $10 million.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the extremes of both
Why
sides.
would the community fail and the complex go up? Like,
but I think the main point he's getting at here is if you've got a single family rental house and you've got a multifamily apartment building, the amount of revenue it's going to bring in, you may spend the same amount of money, and you're trading 1 for 10.
Sure.
And so I do like the concept there.
It's
if you're going to buy a
concept.
rentals.
I'm always confused though why him of all people is not an advocate of home buying simply because of borrowing against the equity.
Right.
That confuses me. Like, how else are you going to get loans unless you've got some sort of collateral?
I would agree with that.
So it's just weird that he takes that position.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, and I have heard him explain that he never wants to be tied down. He wants to be able to leave anytime he wants to. If he decides I'm going to move to this city and do this, he wants to be able to do that. But I also feel like that's a little bit flawed in itself because, if you really have as much as it appears you do,
right,
you can make that move and wait for your house to sell.
Or is
you
it
can
that
do what
much
you need
different to sell a house at a loss than
pay out a lease?
Yeah, than pay out a lease.
Exactly. So there's still some flaws in that idea.
Yeah. Weird.
Okay.
But all right. So far, Grant sucks.
But no, that is not what I said.
That's what I said.
So I think that the book that you're most known for is the 10X Rule.
Yeah, probably so. That's probably right.
Okay. So explain to me what that means exactly.
Okay.
I've read
Here
through
it
the
is.
book, but explain what 10X means.
Yeah, the 10X is a multiplier. Okay, it's the super successful, and I would tell your viewer, you guys you're studying the wrong people. People should be studying the most successful
Well, we're studying Grant Cardone right now, so maybe he's onto something.
companies in the world, not individuals. Don't worry about Dave or Gary or Tony or Grant.
Okay.
What are successful people doing? One of the biggest mistakes I've made in my life was tracking
Would you like to apologize?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
people that were doing better than me. So what? Like I made so many dumb decisions because Dave did it. Or The Millionaire Next Door, that book. I don't want to be the millionaire next door. I want to know what Jeff Bezos is doing. I want to know what the boys at Google are doing, okay? Why does a guy like Mark Zuckerberg go from college dorm room to one of the richest people on the planet? That's who we should be studying.
Okay, I definitely disagree with this. I think it's great to study those guys, but you're also talking about like generational innovative technology that can't really be repeated. And if that's your perception of wealth, then where are you going to land, right? Like if your goal is to only invent the next Google or invent the next Facebook, I mean, what are you getting from what he's saying?
So
That's what I'm getting. You shouldn't be, because to me, I would rather study the Grants and the Daves, because it's much more likely that I'll actually achieve that than it is I'm going to invent Google, the next Google or something.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily study to accomplish what they've accomplished. I think it's study what did they do to grow those things. What were their techniques? What were the things they did do? What were the lessons they learned? I mean, maybe I'm just taking it from a total different perspective, but I feel like the point is, don't always listen to the guys who say, listen to me. Look at people who were successful and see what they did to get there.
Okay.
Because I think the whole point of this is, hey, just because I'm the flashy one saying I'm the mentor, that don't mean you listen to me. Look at the guy who is just quietly being successful. What's he doing every day?
Okay.
And that's what you need to do. That's my view of what he's saying.
And I would agree with that. I just don't think has to be the ultra rich. I would apply that principle to the millionaire next door.
Right.
Right?
Right. Are you referring to the book or if there was a millionaire living next door?
Well, I mean,
Because he's talking about the book.
which is about the principle of the millionaire living next door.
Okay. All right. Just making okay.
I'm saying like I would apply that to that guy, the billionaire that lives next door, or to the local business owner that's worth $15 million. Like I would want to see what that guy's doing because he's accessible. I might could take him out to lunch.
Right.
I can't take
I
Mark
agree with
Zuckerberg
that.
out.
I agree with that.
I don't know.
And don't listen to everybody else, because those people have financial freedom to the point to where they can do anything they want. Like, you cannot mess up some of these people's situation. They couldn't screw it up if they wanted to. So the 10X rule it says, hey, look, you want to scale to a point to where you have the life you deserve. It's not about the money you want or the money you need. Scale your business so you can walk away from it and money never stops taking care of you and your family.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
What?
Anything on that?
No, I was just thinking one of the great things from that book, that's a very watered down explanation of 10X.
Okay.
Because the reality is, the overall 10X rule is whatever I think it's going to take to get to point A, if I think it's going to take this, 10X that to get there. Whatever this person's doing to get there, do it 10 times harder, do it 10 times more, give 10 times the effort.
I like that.
One of the principles that he gave in that book was making the statement, everybody has this, and this is something we've talked about, everybody has the same amount of time in the day. He said, well, yes and no, because, and it's not just about getting up early, which we've talked about. He said it's about how you use that time. And I think I've even used this in like a goal call before. I think we mentioned this back when we did the goal calls. But one of the principles he gave in that book is, if we work together and we both have 30 phone calls to make, if you sit down and spend the next hour making those 30 calls, but I sit down and I make those 30 calls in 15 minutes, I've just gained 45 minutes on you. I now have 45 minutes where you may make a phone call, sit there, think about your next call, talk yourself into it, pep it up. If he just busts out those 30 phone calls and then he's done, that gives him 45 minutes of time where you're still doing task A, he's moved on to task B and task C.
That's good stuff.
So 10Xing, whatever you're doing, I look around in my office and I see, okay, this person's doing this, this, and this, and I see the results they're getting. Well, if I 10X their action, then I'm 10Xing my results.
Okay.
And that's really the concept of that book. 10x your action.
He should get you to explain his book because you did a better job than he did.
For the right amount of money, I would do that.
Well, I mean, in the same way, when I started investing in stocks, the first thing I did was, find the guy that was more successful than anyone ever. And there was only one person who did that, which was Warren Buffett.
Yeah, there you go.
So I read his book, and then I read the book that he learned from, Benjamin Graham. And those two books completely changed my entire life and the way I look at life and money and everything. And I never looked back ever since. I wish I had learned this, when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So, and I actually read the 10X Rule. Great book.
Yeah, thank
Great
you.
book.
And what you said about Warren is like, you don't need to study 27
Warren.
different.
Me and Warren.
Oh, Warren.
Yeah. What you said about Warren?
First name basis.
You study one Warren, you're probably going to be good. And the other thing I would tell the viewers, like, most of us, because of Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, we're listening to so many different people.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
That people do nothing.
So true.
This is the new crisis of our era. People are doing nothing, not because they're lazy, because they have data that is conflicting.
That's good. Now,
Great point.
He's definitely on point here. Very much so on point. There's so much information overload that it paralyzes you.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, he said I'll lose everything if I do that.
Yeah.
He said I'll lose everything if I don't do this.
Yes.
And then you're just like, well, stuck.
Which is why I would, if you're listening to us, I would say keep doing that. But
The Crush It Podcast, fair and balanced.
But don't be afraid to cut some motivation off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Cut some gurus off and say, you know what? This part, maybe pick 2 or 3. I don't know what the magic number is that fits you, and just hang in there. And I would add to that another danger, and this is something that Gary Vee says all the time that I love. There is a danger of spending so much time watching motivational content that you never do anything.
Yep.
Every once in a while, I'll be scrolling through, and Gary Vee will say, "Hey, stop scrolling and go do something.
And you're like, well, time to go.
Quit looking for motivation on Instagram and just go do something."
Yeah.
Success is not in that next great. And I love my quotes and my sayings. I get made fun of all the time. My wife, she's like, you got a quote for everything. My family, when mom, brother, I've always got a quote for something.
Who else is related?
Let's see. And then there's "I hate you."
Okay.
That's my favorite quote when I'm talking to you.
Got
That one's my favorite. It's
Okay.
like at the top of the list. I got it in cute.
Can we move on from this?
It's in calligraphy in my head.
Can we move on?
Beautiful. Outlined with some flowers. Gorgeous. "I hate you" every time I look at you. But anyway, I love a good quote.
Move on.
I love a good saying. But those aren't going to make you successful.
Right.
If one inspires you, great. Hang on to it. Remind yourself of it. Hang it, put it on your mirror where you see it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the information overload, I've experienced that.
It's insane.
I could definitely resonate with what he's
Absolutely.
said just there.
If you listen to Dave says buy a house, then you listen to Grant says that's stupid, you're not going to do anything. And if you're never going to buy any real estate, hey, go ahead and buy one house. Yeah, you're going to regret it later, and you're going to be like, I wish I'd have done what Cardone said. But you got to do something. And what you don't want to do is
that statement there, real quick, reminds me so much of Dad. Because that was like such a dad statement. He'd be like, well, it's okay that you believe that. I'm sure you've been wrong about other stuff. Like, that's such a dad saying. And I think that maybe that was one of the things Dad really appreciated, because he read several of Grant Cardone's books.
Yeah.
Didn't really resonate with who Cardone was, but I think he appreciated the fact that if Grant believes something,
He don't care if you believe it or not.
it's that way or no way.
listen to God and the devil. Because then you get stuck in purgatory and you don't have any fun at all.
All right, so I think we're all
Not scripturally sound here.
fall off the bandwagon there. And theologically, we're going to wholeheartedly disagree. Okay, so that was the end of that video. Interesting, most certainly interesting.
Yeah, so I guess really the takeaway, there are some guys I did say that I have, kind of pulled away from Cardone. I still follow him and enjoy a good bit of the content he puts out. But I will say, if you're looking for some good guys, if you're looking a little bit more on the rough side, I really enjoy Brad Lee. You look up Bradley, he has the Dropping Bombs podcast. But one that really resonates with me is Ed Milet, the Ed Milet show.
Ed Milet's a good one.
Ed Milet is fantastic. My wife Grace started listening to him, really enjoys a good bit of his stuff. And so, but I think really what we can kind of pull from this is we've had fun reacting to Cardone and his ways and his ideas. Find somebody, kind of don't be a victim of information overload.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm saying. Find your person, couple people. If we get to be a part of that small circle, great. If we and we do mean this honestly, if we are causing information overload, as much as it hurts, you got to let us go.
Or don't.
But can we be honest,
Hold on.
Mason?
I'm panicking.
Like everything's falling apart. Are you okay?
Yes.
But at least you're not picking your nose now. So I think you forgot we were on video earlier. As he pulls one out. Anyway, so I love it. But yeah, be careful of information overload. I bet you won't use the way you use little things like that when you make fun of me. You use those as the promo. I bet you won't use that as the promo.
Watch me.
Okay.
Watch me do it.
I'm watching.
Okay.
I'll be waiting on it.
All right, guys. If you are enjoying these reaction
Let us
videos,
know. Because it's a lot of fun.
You want more of this? You want more? Because if you don't want...
I love how you paused, waiting on somebody to answer.
The phones are ringing. All right.
I love it. That was a little bit like these YouTubers who say, comment below if I should do this. Comment below. And this video was made 6 months ago. And people are like, yes, you should. Okay, we will.
He's like, I've made 28 since then.
Yes, love it.
But comment below if you want us to keep doing this. If you're listening to the podcast, you can't. If you don't want us to, let us know. We don't care because it's our podcast. We'll do whatever we want. And that's just the way it's going to be.
I mean, it's facts.
It's just the way it's going to be. All right, so go check out thecrushyourteam.com and buy all the merch and subscribe to the podcast and blah, blah, blah. Safe moon.